Great. Thank you. So welcome from my side. My name is Melissa Miklos. I'm Communication Manager at FEDAREN. And if you don't know FEDAREN, we are the European network of local and regional energy agencies and regions. We have more than 80 members in 24 European countries at the moment. And we're here today organizing this webinar on behalf of two of our European initiatives. One called Manage Energy, which is the European initiative supporting local and regional energy agencies across Europe. And the second is Regio First, and it's a European project focusing on energy efficiency first, which is the topic of this webinar. You'll hear more about both initiatives in a couple of minutes from our speakers. I'll show quickly the agenda for today. So we will start with Veronika Jirikova, who will tell us a bit more about the European policy context. Then Seamus Hoyne will talk about Manage Energy and upcoming opportunities. My colleague Florine Serrault will present Regio First. And finally, we'll have two case studies from the Regio First project about how people are implementing, energy agencies actually are implementing the energy efficiency first principle in two European regions, in the southeast of Ireland and in Asturias in the north of Spain. So please, when you join in, make sure that you are muted to respect the speakers. And without further ado, we will start with Veronika's presentation. Veronika is Policy Officer at DG Energy in the Energy Efficiency Unit B. And Veronika, you have the floor. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much. I'll just try to put this in the presentation mode. Perfect. So you should be able to see now.
Yes, perfect.
Great.
Thank you.
So thanks a lot once more. Very happy to be here to talk about the energy efficiency first principle and to give you a little bit of the policy context from the European Commission. So as said, I work in the energy efficiency unit. I've been there for about 4 years. So I saw the negotiations of the directive and now supporting member states with the implementation of the new and revised provisions, which include the energy efficiency first principle. So happy to present and then discuss also and see the perspective from the agencies. So I'll focus mainly on the Energy Efficiency Directive and the governance regulation, because these are the most important legal documents when it comes to the requirements on energy efficiency first. So the context. We, even before the governance regulation in 2018, for the first time, we incorporated energy efficiency first in 2015 in the strategy for the Energy Union, where it was stated that the principle should be an overarching and guiding principle of the Energy Union. However, not much has been concretely done on the ground. So that's why ever since 2015, and the first attempt was 2018, to incorporate some concrete legal requirements to really speed up the implementation of the principle. So in 2018, we have the definition of the energy efficiency first principle and also some requirements on how the principle should be included in the national energy and climate plans. Then in 2021, the Commission adopted the first recommendation on the principle. And the title is very revealing because it's energy efficiency first, from principles to practice. So this recommendation provides some concrete examples. We have a decision-making tool in it for the practitioners, and also some concrete examples in various sectors, in energy sectors, and also some end-use sectors. And this recommendation actually accompanied the proposal for the revision of the Energy Efficiency Directive. The proposal was part of the Fit for 55 package. And it took some time to negotiate the directive. So the legal text was negotiated and adopted in 2023. And the two main articles which cover the requirements for the energy efficiency first are Article 3. So Article 3 really gives the most general requirements. And then we have some concrete requirements when it comes to transmission, distribution, and transformation of energy in Article 27. So moving on first to the governance regulation and the definition of the principle and the requirements. So when we look at the governance regulation, I'm sure that you know that there are these 5 dimensions of the energy union, where member states need to propose some policies and measures. These 5 dimensions are decarbonization, energy efficiency, energy security, internal energy market, and research and innovation. And so what the regulation says is that member states shall take into account the interlinkages between these 5 dimensions, and in particular the energy efficiency first principle. And for explicitly, there are 2 dimensions which are mentioned, energy security and internal energy market, where the policies and measures which member states propose in their NECPs should reflect energy efficiency first. And with that, we actually get to what does it mean? How is the principle defined? So in a nutshell, I kind of provide here a shortened summary, which applying energy efficiency first means to consider, before making any future planning decision on energy infrastructure, to first consider energy efficiency measures, which should be cost efficient, which should be technically, economically, and environmentally feasible. And the governance regulation also names some alternatives. So what does it mean? What are these energy efficiency alternatives? There's a variety of them. So it's end-use energy savings, but also demand response initiatives or more efficient conversion, transmission, and distribution of energy. So here I just wanted to sum up again, because it will be useful for the requirements of the EED. So the governance regulation basically says that applying energy efficiency first means first assessing energy efficiency on alternatives on the demand side before committing to new infrastructure development, so supply side. And when we assess the alternatives, we need to use some tool to assess. And so that's why from the beginning, the way the Commission sees the principle is promoting the importance of cost-benefit analyses, which properly quantify and monetize the wider benefits of energy efficiency. And that's really crucial because usually what is done, cost-benefit analyses are usually done from the financial perspective, meaning looking at the investment and the return on the investment. But we are trying to widen a little bit the perspective and arguing for the wider benefits of energy efficiency, social, environmental, economic, which are often overlooked. And we believe that they should be very much part of the equation because energy efficiency first argues for a more societal perspective. And so the governance regulation really laid down the foundation. And then in the Energy Efficiency Directive, we introduced a new article, Article 3, with the 3 main requirements, which you can see here summed up. And again, just to explain a little bit the rationale, we have seen in the first round of NECPs in 2019, but also in the updates, that the energy efficiency first is still treated very much as an overarching principle. So it is mentioned in many of the NECPs, but concretely, it's really not reflected in the measures and policies which are introduced. And so that's why we are hoping with this new article and the new requirements that it's really the beginning to see a more systematic and concrete application of the principle, not only in the energy systems, because the NECPs are really a framework for energy planning, but also in the non-energy sectors, which have an impact on energy consumption. So here is the first requirement. It asks member states to apply the principle in 3 types of decisions: planning, policy, and major investment decisions in the energy system, but also non-energy sectors, as I said, which have a significant impact on energy consumption. The directive lists some of these sectors. So these are industry, obviously, buildings, agriculture, and for example, also the financial sector. The co-legislators decided to define what a major investment decision is. So there are monetary thresholds. So a major investment decision for the purpose of Article 3 is a decision of more than 100 million euros. And there's an even higher threshold for transport infrastructure projects, so 175 million euros. So for all of these decisions of this magnitude, the energy efficiency first has to be applied, meaning that the energy efficiency alternatives need to be assessed using the CBAs, which take into account the wider benefits of energy efficiency. Then monitoring, very important. So we know from previous experience that verification and monitoring is very important. So there is a requirement for member states to identify a monitoring entity, which will verify how and if the principle is really applied. And then, as already mentioned, the cost-benefit methodologies. So there is a requirement for member states to promote and apply cost-benefit methodologies, which allow the monetization and quantification of wider benefits of energy efficiency. So that was the Article 3 with the main requirements. And I also wanted to mention Article 27, which really focuses more in detail on the energy system. So energy transformation, transmission, and distribution. And there are some requirements also for some important players in this field. So the national regulatory authorities, which set out the rules for gas and electricity infrastructure, and also gas and electricity transmission and distribution operators. So the previous EED already had some requirements for them to take into account energy efficiency. But here with the recast, there is an explicit requirement for them to also apply the principle in network planning and network development and investment decisions related to gas and electricity infrastructure. And again, they will have to do so when they are assessing alternatives to apply those cost-benefit analyses and looking at the wider benefits of energy efficiency. And they will also have to monitor and quantify network losses, so an important aspect. And here, just to conclude, the next steps. So I've already mentioned that the Commission is really trying to provide some guidance and support both the member states, but also local and regional policymakers and decision makers. So in 2021, there was the first recommendation, but we've received feedback that it would be good to maybe go a bit in depth and look at also other sectors and provide more examples. So we are currently working on a follow-up on sector-specific guidelines. So we will look at 4 sectors: transport sector, industry, the energy sector, and also the finance sector. So these guidelines can be expected later this year. And I mentioned here also that last year, the Commission organized a citizens panel on energy efficiency. And some of the recommendations from the citizens will be incorporated in this upcoming guidelines. And then following the adoption of the EED recast, we already adopted a recommendation on the implementation of Article 3. So that was adopted last year. And there is one more upcoming document, which is related to the directive. And this will be adopted also this year. And these are guidelines on the design of the cost-benefit analyses for the application of the energy efficiency first. So this is a requirement that the co-legislators incorporated in the directive. And the Commission was asked to provide guidelines on the CBAs for member states. So this is also something we are working on and which will be adopted this year as well. So this was on just the legislative context for energy efficiency first, and I'll stop here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Veronica, for that very comprehensive yet clear and concise summary of everything that's going on at EU level on energy efficiency first. What I take from this, I would say, is that NECPs have energy efficiency first included very often, but yet we have to see the practical implementation, and you are doing what you can to make this happen. And our members and energy agencies on the ground are also doing what they can. We will hear about this later on. But before that, I would like to introduce Seamus Hoyne, who is the Dean of Flexible and Workplace Learning at the Technological University of the Shannon and also the coordinator of the Manage Energy Initiative. Seamus, if you can just introduce Manage Energy and what participants could benefit from through Manage Energy. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Veronica, for the overview, and thanks, Melissa, for the introduction. So this will be a whistle-stop tour through Manage Energy. So Manage Energy has been an initiative of the European Commission for many years, and its aim is to support leaders of the energy transition within energy agencies and their local and regional authorities across Europe to boost investments in energy efficiency, renewable energy, and sustainable transport. The consortium leading and running Manage Energy is made up of energy agencies from across Europe and led by ourselves in the Technological University of the Shannon. So many energy agencies with lots and lots of expertise in dealing with the challenge of implementing the energy transition in their regions and understanding the needs of energy agencies and the local authorities. So I suppose this graphic shows what we try to do, and I'm going to take you through each of the steps very briefly to give you an insight to what is happening in Manage Energy and the opportunities that you have to engage with the Manage Energy service. But before doing that, just to put the scale of energy agencies in numbers, we did a survey of energy agencies at the start of the Manage Energy contract, and it updated from data in 2017. So you can see that there's close to 4,000 staff working in energy agencies across Europe, and we have an estimated 350 energy agencies all across Europe. So a large workforce who get up every morning and seeking to implement energy efficiency and the energy transition across their regions and within their energy agencies, and working with many, many stakeholders. So one of our tools to support energy agencies is through our masterclasses. These are very practically orientated capacity building events that happen over 3 days. 1.5 of those days are in Brussels and actual physical workshops, and the rest are split into online sessions, really geared to be practical. So the participants get homework, which they try and look and deliver and scope out solutions to the problems in their regions. And we're really looking at trying to scale up the activity of energy agencies. So began looking at projects to really large scale investments. To date, we've had 4 critical topics on market facilitation, innovative financing, one-stop shops, and energy communities. And these are just some examples from one of our recent ones, Masterclass 5, which was on energy communities, which was very highly subscribed. It's a key topic area for people at the moment. And you'll see the topics we've covered so far, and our next masterclass, which is completely full, is starting in March, and again is on the topic of energy communities. And we will have new masterclasses happening just before the summer and later on in the year, and indeed in 2026. So do keep an eye on our website and social media for announcements in terms of when we open up applications for new masterclasses. So supporting our masterclasses are expert missions. And these are where we send an expert to your energy agency for 2.5 days, plus another half day on site prior to the visit. We will be completing 28 of these in total. We have done 50% of them to date. You can see the countries that have been covered so far. So 14 expert missions. And these are really focused on supporting the energy agency in their region, addressing particular topics. The second call for expert missions closed in December, so we're now allocating out our experts to our host agencies at the moment. So you can see we have been in various different parts of the world and parts of Europe, again, working with the energy agency staff, their stakeholders and their teams, addressing particular problems. So very much practically orientated, looking at strategic solutions to issues in the region that the energy agency covers. Next, a new innovation in this contract is work shadowing, and this is, I suppose, the flip side of expert missions. This is where we bring people to an expert energy agency. This is a new initiative in this Manage Energy contract. There is a current call open, so if you're interested in visiting one of our expert energy agencies, And the purpose of these these expert work shadowing, is where you really get in-depth understanding of how expert energy agencies run, how they provide particular services, how they develop new solutions, and address particular technical or topical areas. Again, so small groups of between 5 and 8 people, so very focused, and to enable a lot of peer exchange and peer learning, you get to see how the energy agency operates. Again, all details on the website. And our website, I suppose, is our core information base. So please do use it. Please do access it to find information. We have details of the energy agencies across Europe, close to 350, so you can get access and details to understand their scale and size. You get information on energy agencies and specific guidance and experts on leaders and how covering different topics. And then I suppose the last phase of our activities concerns with online seminars and managed energy talks. And this is an example of one of our online seminars done in collaboration with Regio First, and we have done a number of others in collaboration with other initiatives. Our managed energy talks are particularly unique. We have had 2 so far, with Jens and with Clover, and these are held as part of EU Sustainable Energy Week. And really these are designed around the TED Talks mission, but really to challenge our thinking around particular topics, and perhaps not just to talk about kilowatt hours and tons of CO2, but look at climate action and the energy transition from a different perspective. So our next one, this is a little teaser, has been agreed with Chris de Moyer, who is a leader in looking at how we think about and talk about climate change. So it will be on the 12th of June during European Sustainable Energy Week. And Melissa and our communications team will be making announcements of that. So do please keep an eye out for that coming up soon. We are also involved in lots of other activities. We are present at many, many events. We collaborate with other projects. We have stands at events in Brussels. So please do reach out if you think there's an opportunity for us to spread the managed energy message. And just the final slide, really, to give you a sense of the managed energy in numbers. We have connected with energy agencies from 22 countries, close to 100 energy agencies and local authorities. We have delivered 7 masterclasses, 4 workshopping sessions, and 15 expert missions. Over 300 stakeholders involved to our expert missions, and looking at investments at over 300 million, and lots of managed energy talks. And our feedback from our services has been very good. So we're trying to keep a very high standard of services provided to our stakeholders and our partners. And please do connect with us through our website and our various social media channels. And please do keep in contact. We are keen to share best practice and share knowledge across Europe and the great work that's happening in delivering the energy transition through energy agencies and local authorities. So thanks very much, Melissa. Hopefully I've kept to time, and apologies for so quickly running through everything. But again, lots of details on our website for anybody that wants to know anything more.
Thank you, Seamus. No, you did a great job, and I know I'm strict with time, so you did a great job. I will put in the chat also the link to our newsletter, which could be also a good way to keep in touch with us and know what are the upcoming opportunities. Thanks again. So now moving on to Regio First. For those of you who are not yet familiar with the project and also what's coming from their side, we have my fellow colleague from FEDAREN, Florine Serrault, who is our policy officer, and also a few words about the project. Florine, you have the floor.
Thank you, Melissa. Good afternoon, everyone. It is my pleasure to introduce you to the Regio First project. So the Regio First project is focusing on the planning aspects of the implementation of the energy efficiency first principle. So the objectives of the Regio First project are really to provide support in the decision of regional authorities to apply the energy efficiency first principle in their planning practices, and to establish at the same time a community of practice around this common objective of the implementation of the energy efficiency first principle. and to ensure at the same time political commitment and societal acceptance also at the regional level, and to support the introduction and strengthening of the energy efficiency first principle, not only at the regional level, but in a perspective of multi-level governance, to bring it also in the NECPs. As we said in the first presentation, the energy efficiency first principle is indeed mentioned, but it is not yet there in terms of measure for its implementation. So that's also one of the objectives of the RegioFirst project. The project is run by 6 pilot regions, thanks to our 6 partner energy agencies in Spain, Ireland, Italy, Slovenia, Croatia, and Greece. So one of the main activity and outcome of the project is the online planning framework, which is an online tool that can be used by anyone to help to support step by step the planning process to implement the energy efficiency first principle. So it goes really from preparation, how to map and engage the right stakeholders, the objectives and target, the assessment of the regional energy systems, and also cost-benefit analysis tools. So I will provide you with the link in the chat if you want to have a look after the presentation. You can access it, you can access each of the steps and each of the tools for each of the steps. And in a perspective of capacity building, the RegioFirst project also opened a mentoring program. So it's open to every stakeholders at local, regional level involved in the planning process. And it's focusing on 3 different pillars. So the first part of the mentoring program is already over and was really on tutorial capacity building around the use of the online planning framework and the implementation in the planning process. But topic 2 is starting on Thursday and will focus on the multi-level governance aspect, the good practices in terms of how to bring the good practices at the regional, local level, also in the NECPs, and how to implement effective multi-level climate energy dialogue in this perspective. And the third topic is going to happen in May and will focus more on the funding aspects of the implementation of the Energy First principle, with a close look on how to use the Just Transition Fund in Just Transition regions and Social Climate Fund to implement the Energy Efficiency First principle, keeping in mind also to tackle energy poverty in the transition. So there is only a few places left for the first session on multi-level governance on Thursday. I will provide you with the link if you want to have a look and if you want to register. And there is plenty of place for the third topic at the moment. So whenever you want to register for the sessions on Just Transition and Social Climate Fund, you are very welcome to do so. Yes, without further ado, I will leave the floor to our pilot regions from Ireland and from Spain to share with you some concrete examples of what have been done in their regions to implement the Energy Efficiency First principle. So yes, I will leave the floor, I think, to Paddy, right?
Exactly.
Thank you very much,
Florine. Paddy, just thank you for being here. Just to introduce you shortly for our guests. So Paddy Phelan is the CEO of the Southeast Energy Agency, and he will tell us about how they're implementing the Energy Efficiency First and RegioFirst project in Southeast Ireland. Paddy, you have the floor. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Melissa. And thank you to FEDERAN and all of the energy agencies for what we as an energy agency have really benefited from. For example, the Manage Energy project over the last number of years, having had expert missions to us and always very open to be a host of anyone wanting to or interested in learning how we do it. Just the specific case study, we are a partner with Federan in the Regio First project, and we have had a specific experience which I intend to take you through. Just a little bit of an introduction to the Energy Agency. We're 22 years young, established way back by a group of interested politicians and local business people who had an interest in sustainability and understanding it. And I suppose the very first line from the mandate or the memorandum was around rational use of energy. So that is what energy efficiency is all about. It is the rational use of energy. So that sits right back to the start of the Energy Agency itself. Again, what are energy agencies? I'm not going to go into it. Seamus has covered that in plenty in terms of the Manage Energy portal and that project and the supports, and anybody who has an interest in such an entity or an organization, there's lots and lots of supports available through Federan and the Manage Energy project to see some best practice. There's many types, many shapes, many forms, many scales at both local and regional level across Europe, and it's a really super community to be a part of, and all learning and all constantly working together to change the lot of the energy vector moving forward. Again, just why do we need to plan for energy? Rising costs have really driven that, and climate targets. I would put a proviso against it. We're already seeing the reactions to the American administration and their reversal of direction and support in terms of energy efficiency and energy renewables. And we're seeing a lot of Irish companies, particularly, who are focusing their efforts, and I've first-hand experience of a lot of the financial institutes who are all, after many years of effort, moving in the direction of sustainability criteria around their finance, or not just their finance, but their products, now starting to roll back somewhat on their commitments. And that has an impact. So again, EU and national policies are really important in driving this, and particularly driving energy efficiency. And our earlier contributor has already identified the role of that. But really, we have to remain strong now, and we have to remain even more committed. And the importance of the energy agencies in this energy efficiency planning is going to become more and more critical as we see these challenges at the very highest level to the broader policies and legislation. The case study for the Southeast region. So I'm stealing a little bit of my colleague's thunder here. Martin de Grandchamp joined us through a European project partnership meeting where we met Martin on a site in Slovenia last year, and Martin came and joined us in February. And Martin has a specific experience in dealing with stakeholder engagement, and really turned around this project on our behalf because we were struggling as an energy agency. I come from a technical background, an engineering background, and I suppose it's often said that engineers are not the best communicators. And we just see as well from the Energy Agency's strategic review over the years, we've invested in resources in the whole area of communications, and now starting to mature, thanks to this project and this framework, into understanding the real importance of having a key stakeholder framework through which to engage. So really, our best practice experiences really come through the implementation of the project with our local authorities, and that tailored approach of applying that energy first principle, which was developed for our local authorities. And it ensured their alignment with their climate action plans, which again, they were mandated under legislation to produce last year, and using this framework to map local needs to the available resources. And I think that's the critical bit. There are resources out there already that we may not be aware, we may not have mapped out, and that activity was really useful in getting their involvement. Again, the enhanced stakeholder engagement piece, again, this actively involving key stakeholders very early in the process and conducting workshops. I suppose Martin and the team here fostered a collaborative approach, again, between even interdepartments within the local authorities, because there's multiple departments within our local authorities, the equivalent of your municipal authorities across Europe, and really understanding the mapping out the relationships between energy, environment and planning. And then the requirement under the legislation to take account of your neighbouring municipalities' activities and plans, and making sure that there's a link and collaboration between those. Then the streamlined decision making. So again, the mapping of the process helped clarify the relationship between the local authorities, their needs and the resources that were within. And a lot of the work of the Energy Agency traditionally has been about the analyses and identifying the resource potential, identifying the areas where efficiency can be achieved or should be achieved, and what the barriers are to getting there. So simplifying again for them that decision making around how to align the local needs with the local resources. And then this is very much a replicable model. So this pilot for us particularly has provided us with the opportunity not just to map out the opportunities with our stakeholders within the local authority sector, but as I'll touch on slightly later in my presentation, we are working very closely with the other aspects within the wider counties and the southeast region. So not just the public authorities, but also communities, businesses, SMEs, and large industry. So this is very much a replicable template. And as a result of this project, we have now started to look at a project specifically resourced, which will enable us to map out stakeholders right across the sectors just mentioned. So again, tailored strategies, early stakeholder engagement, and the use of innovative communicative tools, touched on earlier by Seamus's discussion there around TED Talks, video clips, shorts, all of these tools that now get the message across in much shorter times than our traditional lengthy reports did in the previous decades. So really capturing that to help get people engaged. And then the Regio First framework was critical in overcoming challenges and keeping everyone on the same path and ensuring that we got the energy initiative successfully implemented into those plans. So really, there's a list of case studies there. I won't take you through them, but I'm sure the slides will be circulated after this workshop. And there's some links there to some videos with some testimonies from community actors, businesses, etc., and a link to our website, which shows some of those best case practices. So again, just as an energy agency, I've shared here some of the key barriers that we focus our resources on. So we've grown from a resource of 3 to 5 in the energy agency 10 years ago to almost 25 now. And we've dedicated, significant numbers of that resource to not just communications, but also now to finance. So we see finance as a key limitation on an awful lot of these programs, and even the whole area of resource mapping is a resource intensive piece of work. So we use all of our various projects and all of our various multidisciplinary skill sets. So we have ranging skill sets from architects, engineers, communications, marketing officers, finance, you name it. We even have someone recently employed who is specific expertise is around cinematography, so being able to convert our text into film or message to get across those barriers. So really the call to action for us is we're now broadening this out to the stakeholders to drive energy efficiency, not just in the public authorities, but right across the business, communities, citizens and other actors. How business communities can engage with us, the energy agency and other energy agencies, and then looking at how we can address that planning around the various projects. So again, just to recap on the key points, the Regio First framework was absolutely fundamental in getting engagement and keeping our local authority stakeholders on track. And then the communication tools that we wrapped around that really brought success to the efforts and the outcomes in terms of aligning the plans. We were part of, and we did a little bit against the grain, but when COVID-19 struck in mid-2020, we had a lot of people looking around at each other in the office with lots of things to do, but couldn't go to do them. So we refocused some effort into the CDP, the Carbon Disclosure Project, and we made a specific request around a regional assessment as opposed to a city assessment or a country assessment or a large multinational. And as part of that process, we identified the real opportunities in terms of how we can start to align the various plans and very well documented policies at a national and regional level, but now start to tie them and link them to the actual resources that exist locally. So that was a real, I suppose, capturing an opportunity, and we're starting to see the benefits of that now in terms of movement of stakeholders in a consistent direction as a grouping. So Melissa and Florian, thank you very much for the opportunity to present. Again, the key contact details at our webpage and various other aspects are available there on slide number 7. And very happy to take any questions at the end. I'll remain on for the moment. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Paddy. Indeed, the recording and slides will be shared with all registered participants, so don't worry, you will get that. And I remind you that you can ask questions through the chat. But before coming to the Q&A, we have one last presentation. So last but not least, I would like to welcome César Valmaceda, who is EU Projects Technician at FAEN, the Asturias Energy Agency, who will also share his experience of the energy efficiency first principle being implemented in Asturias. César, you have the floor. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Melissa. Can you see my screen?
Yes, and it's full screen, so perfect.
It's full screen, right? It's presentation mode. So thank you very much for this kind invitation to share our experience and best practice from Asturias, Spain. These presentations will try to show how we can support our regional energy policies addressing the energy efficiency first principle from citizens, how to engage, how we can engage people in the loop in the green transition process. So FAEN is a regional energy agency and climate in Asturias. It's a public body. The regions to our government and is a not-profit institution. Our main objective is to try to promote support action for energy and climate in all areas of the Asturian society. So we are currently 17 employees, and our head partners is green transition from the coal mine history in Asturias. And our main activities are, apart from trying to policymakers in the policy instrument preparation and implementation, we are trying also to support tasks like information and guidance to the public administration or to the citizen, communication, dissemination, training activities, technical and economical support. And also we try to manage all of these things from a perspective of innovation and territorial cooperation. So before jumping to talk about how we can implement this energy efficiency first principle, it's important to understand our regional context. So the Asturias region has around 1 million of inhabitants, and historically our energy model was based on coal. So the last coal mine was closed this year. The last thermal power plants will be closed in a couple of years. And because the existence of these thermal power plants, Asturias is a strong industrial region where we can find all typology of electro-intensive industry. So we can cement, steel, ceramic, chemical industry. Now, this energy-intensive industry is addressing also the challenge of decarbonization. So all of this together make Asturias a clear example of one of the European core regions in transition. So now jumping to our main regional policy instruments, where for sure the energy efficiency principle have to be incorporated, are our regional energy strategy, our Asturian regional climate action strategy, and also because Asturias is one European region in transition, linked to the just transition mechanisms and funds. We have also one territorial just transition plan. And all these policies are conveniently addressed and monitored by the Just Transition Observatory. So without going in deep, only paying attention to the main keywords, we could summarize main topics from our Asturias energy and just transition policies as follow. We are a Korean in transition where the industrial tradition is huge, and we need to focus on the challenge of our industrial decarbonization. So also because some of our former thermal power plants are being transformed, regional big projects are approaching the challenge of new energy vectors like hydrogen, becoming Asturias as one of the recognized European hydrogen valleys. Also, the economy, energy efficiency, renewal, and key topics in the region, and in the photo to put citizens in the center. Local communities, local energy communities are becoming a very interesting instrument to address the transformation from people. Last but not least, we try to use and explore the most proper innovative digital solution for it. Thus, let me highlight here these three palettes: people, local energy communities, and energy efficiency first as the key words of this presentation. Okay, so as I said at the beginning, this presentation will try to show how we can support our regional policies, energy policies, addressing this energy efficiency principle from citizens. So thus we continue focusing the attention on people, especially because we are a coal region, and for us, the process of green transition had to pay special attention to people to ensure that the transition is fair for everyone. Say this. The point is how we can engage people in the green transition process in our region. So first question to arise could be, are the people living in a just transition territory and suffering the closure of coal mines, phasing out of thermal power plant, having a justice feeling in the process? The point is the concept of justice somehow more difficult to track, to measure than the concept of injustice. If we ask people about the disgusting situation of some specific issue and what kind of feelings they arise, if they don't feel okay, they probably start to enumerating a fact situation, means that feelings of injustice usually arise versus the feeling of justice. This means that easier to monitor how fair the play is by investigating how deep the feeling of injustice usually is, and then trying to minimize such feeling of injustice in people. Then, if we meet people in the workshop, let's see, and to talk about the process, the green transition process, usually we find out the narratives, the local narratives, which usually are included with feelings, unfair feelings. So a good way to understand the level of feelings in this green transition process means, because at the end we try to involve people in the process, and how relevant is this local narrative moving from parent to children. So we not forget the fact these former coal basins are usually located in areas affected by this demographic challenge. So honestly, something like we have in front of us something like a perfect storm, where previously keeping and the motivating narrative over time, not paying attention to opinion to citizens, could be against our effort to demographic challenge. So saying this, and we ask about how to involve citizens in the green transition process. We consider that the concept of local energy communities are a key points, because basically we are providing something like a proposal to people, and they are able to work for the community. Saying this, for us, the concept of local energy communities is very important. So 3 recurrent master classes for managed energy program are financing instruments, one-stop shops, and local energy communities. So fine was granted by our National Energy Agency as one of the Spanish nodes of the network of community transformation offices in the region of Asturias. So FINE was and is trying to collaborate with and into these European networks. Also, this office, local energy community offices, is conceptually working like a one-stop shop, means offering services, accompanying the whole process of creation of communities, monitoring the system regulation, and disseminating best practice. This is the reason why we are offering different set of services to create these energy communities from the technical, financial, legal, and governance point of view, and also accompanying the whole process. So we are now several Asturians local energy communities, LEHOFS initiatives to show, and in particular, we try to pay attention now when we have already been able to engage and mobilize people, real citizens in this transition process by on initiatives to move forward from PV system to incorporate additional action to prepare around the concept of energy efficiency, how to reduce energy, how to reduce energy demand, energy needs. So some additional action to be incorporated in these energy communities moving forward. This PV system can be building and housing renovations from skins to windows, roof, also more efficiency heating and district heating and domestic hot water system, aggregating demand, scaling boilers, trying to promote more efficient solution for mobility and transport, or just contributing or just only facilitating integrated neighborhoods regeneration process. All of them are energy projects potentially able to address it into local communities. Now, I will try to share a couple of experience. The first one is the best practice, talking about neighborhood.
Sorry to interrupt, Cesar. Can you maybe present one best practice? Because I'm afraid we are already over time.
Yes, we have a couple of slides. This first one is talking about the regeneration program for mixed public-private building blocks at former coal burners in Asturias, where multi-government approach is following, incorporating citizens, tenants, and owners in the regeneration process. And last is a social housing, public-private local energy community, where after we incorporate the social housing tenants in the process to create the energy community, we go ahead re-engaging these tenants in the geothermal district heating network for heating and domestic hot water. So all of this information is incorporated in the slide, so we can check afterwards. And that's all from my side. Apart from say thank you very much, Melissa and Florin, for the invitation to talk today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Cesar, and sorry for rushing you at the end. That was very interesting. I hope our participants also got some insights about the work of energy agencies, if you were not already familiar with it. We have 5 minutes left, so I suggest I would ask maybe one general question for all our speakers. If there are questions, other questions for our speakers, you still have a bit of time to ask them through the chat. Otherwise, I think most of our speakers included their email addresses in their slides, which you will receive shortly. So my question would be for all the speakers, how would you address someone who wants to do energy efficiency first in their region? If they come and find you and say, I want to start implementing this principle, what they shouldn't do, the one thing they should not do. And we will start with Veronica and do the order of the program.
All right. Well, I think the more relevant speakers will be those who are working for the agencies and working on the ground. But I could say, because you have more experience with really working on the ground, whereas I work really on the regulation and setting the legal framework. But I think what we are trying to argue for is to have really a comprehensive approach, meaning, for example, installation of heat pumps is a huge topic these days. But it doesn't make sense to install a heat pump in a building which is not energy efficient. So we are arguing for, let's say, a unified approach to renewables and energy efficiency, to kind of look at the complete picture and not start doing one thing which in itself, when you install a heat pump in a building which is not energy efficient, and then you refurbish this building, it will need maybe such a powerful heat pump which was installed when the building was not energy efficient. So I would say, and we argue for the same thing in the national strategies and plans, where we believe it should be done in cooperation. Renovations of buildings should be done together with developments of heating and cooling plans, because it should be complementary and not done in separation. So I would say that's the most important thing, I believe. But happy to be challenged by the other speakers.
Great to know. But your experience also, with the regulations is important here. And I think people on the ground will agree. I remember in the Manage Energy Masterclass on One-Stop Shops recently, the director of the Super Homes Electric Ireland's One-Stop Shop said that for One-Stop Shop, the biggest threat is not other one-stop shops, it's single measures. So he would agree with you. And that brings me also to Seamus, who was involved in Super Homes. What would you say is the one thing that people should not do when working on energy efficiency first?
So the one thing I would say they should not do is start with a blank page. There's already people doing work in this space, people who are testing the frameworks that Cesar and Paddy presented and many others. So I think be very clear on the narrative that you bring to engage with stakeholders. So learn from others. So don't go and try and reinvent the wheel would be the message, to really gain from other people's experience.
Thank you, Seamus. Also very relevant. Florine, from all your work in Regio First, do you have some insights for us?
Well, yeah, I pretty much agree with Seamus on that, and on the engagement of stakeholders. I would say don't especially insist on using energy efficiency first principle concept as such, but really take the time of explaining concretely what it's referencing to, and all the measures that encompass energy efficiency. As Veronica said, it's actually a very broad batch of measures. And the last presentation of Cesar also made me think about it, that indeed, for example, energy communities, we tend to not put energy efficiency as a topic highlight when talking about energy communities, but it can also be like meaningful measure to implement the energy efficiency first principle. So just address it in a very holistic way.
Thank you. Coming to our case studies of the day, Paddy, what would you tell our audience?
I think a lot of what the answers have already been provided there. I suppose from an engagement perspective, it is important in the first instance not to assume that everybody understands. So simplifying, how to map the resources against the existing frameworks. And then secondly, in the stakeholder engagement piece, to tier the engagement. So try and maintain as many of the stakeholders as you can in the general updates or conversations, but then separately making sure the key stakeholders are kept on track using the framework. So the framework is really beneficial to make sure that the key stakeholders that really are required to take ownership of the actions and to follow through on the opportunities that they are kept in a very positive communication mindset and engaged properly using best practice stakeholders.
Thank you. César, it's always harder to reply at the end, but do you have anything to add to this?
Yeah, I think that I quite agree with the comment coming from the colleagues. But my point is, as Paddy said, try to pay special attention to the citizen, to people, and this engagement process, because at the end, this is going to be the main promoter on the main locals of the action. So we need to pay special attention to this people engagement, considering that when they are considering part of the ecosystem or part of the solution, we work hard in the promotion of the activity. So just first try to engage people in the loop and then go ahead with the implementation and solution. That's my point. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And thanks again to all our speakers. We're now coming to the end of this webinar. So you will receive again the recording and slides very soon. You also have a few links to explore to dig deeper into Manage Energy and Regio First. And hopefully what you heard today and these last advice will help you with your energy efficiency first planning. So thank you very much, everyone, and see you soon for other webinars and events. Have a good afternoon. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Melissa. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.